I'm the director of research and teaching of the Museum Quai Branly. I also study anthropology and archaeology, but I'm also a doctor. And Sylvain had been working at the Musée du Quai for several years, and we wanted to use science to work on human bones that are at the Quai Branly Museum. There are many objects, more than 300,000 items, and most of them are digitized in 3D. We also use the medical CT scan to know what is hidden in these objects. And you'll see that with Sylvain, we've been using this tool. It's extremely relevant and very interesting. It allows us to continue to work on these images either on our smartphone, on a computer, both for researchers and for visitors. It is very interesting. So let us show you what happens in the field. So we work on Peruvian mummies, and we carried out virtual autopsies, which means that we did not touch these items at all. So we make this available to researchers. We give them the possibility to visualize items, which you can see here on screen. It's a Peruvian item that we'd bring to a hospital, the same hospital that you go to if you have to go through a CT scan. So we're not going to open up the mummy. We were not going to destroy the whole architecture around it. It's exactly the same as in hospital. So this is a report that was on TV, and this was in 2017. And with HoloLens, we can see three of these items. Maybe some of you have seen this report. So there's no 3D effect. There's no synthetic imaging. We had 20 minutes to do this report. So we have technology here that have a real impact factor for museums that don't necessarily have a very high budget. This allows visitors to have the item in front of them and to then go all around it and see what it's made of and what is inside these items. So this is a funeral carpet within which is a mummy, a corpse, and it allows visitors to see it virtually without touching this mummy, without affecting its integrity. So I'm with Christophe Molera. So we put on these helmets, and the idea is to completely virtually go around an item which does not exist. We modelize this object in 3D. So it's just as if there was a virtual mummy between me and the lady with the pink coat, and we can go around it. And if we put on the goggles, we can go around this item and see what's inside of it. We can even go inside the mouth. We can go around the mummy. So it's a virtual dissection. This allows us to also have a diagnosis to know what they died from, the sex, the age of the person, and sometimes even find out that the mummy was pregnant, for instance. So here we have a mummy that was found in 1898 in Lima, and this scan allowed us to modelize both the outside and the inside of the mummy. The first thing that we found out is that the body is not in the same position as this sculpture here, because the head is at the bottom and the feet are on top, because this is the Pachamama, a representation of the Pachamama. So the body is as that of a baby going back inside the Earth Mother's womb. So when we carry out an autopsy, we see that it's a child of 5 years old, 5-year-olds. There are many items. There's corn. There's also jewelry inside, and we can also show this in the exhibition along with the remains of the body. So we can present this to visitors, to these scientific researchers. We can show them the results of our studies. So this is a huge amount of data. So when you go to the CT scan, they give us a CD and we have nothing to read it on. So here we use cloud computing, so you can don't calculate anything in your smartphone or in your helmet or in your computer. It's all done remotely, and you can go around the item and see everything around it. So here we can see the scan of the bone. These are images that you're given when you go do a scan at the hospital. And what's interesting is it works for there are medical uses as well, many different sectors that need to have access to this very high definition information. At the Musée du Quai Branly, we have many different items. We have statues coming from sub-Saharan Africa, and we've developed the same tool for these objects. And we've noticed that when you make offerings and donations to these statues in Africa, it's done at the top of the head, at the ears level. And we've noticed with the CT scan, with the analysis of the data, is that there is a stomach that is right behind the belly button, and all of these different holes communicate within one another, and it comes out through a natural hole that we all have. And this has completely changed the vision that we had of sub-Saharan Africa arts, and we published this study, and it's what we called the anthropomorphism of fetishes. Imagine what you can do to present this in a way that is understandable for visitors. There's also the perspiration of fetishes. This mask comes from the Matisse Museum. This mask had oils, was covered in oil, and it had completely absorbed this oil. And when we presented it during ceremonies, well, the mask is going to sweat with the heat. It's also anthropomorphism. We have a level of details that we do not have on a smartphone. Here you have very high definition images, so you can zoom in, you can see all of the details. It's really important for researchers, but for visitors as well, because when you see a work of art, you want to see how the artist work. You want to be in touch. If you're just looking at Mr. Potato, then you don't need that level of definition. But if you're looking at these works of art, this is a main vase, for instance, the level of detail, the resolution, the lighting around it, this is all very important. The global illumination that we use in the movie industry is something that is in real time, and you can actually give the live image of the item. This is a chocolate pot dating back to the 18th century. The different museums that we work in, we don't all carry out research, but we land objects, and we have a much more objective manner to check the state of the object when we land it, when we get it back, when it arrives on the exhibition site, and at the end of the exhibition. And this model is extremely objective and extremely useful. We don't have the same vision when we look at an object, whether it's one person or another. Here, it's completely unbiased. It's a CT scan. You do it 4 different times when you land an object. And this is done very quickly. So we can also modelize monuments or historical tombs and graves. Without having a very good knowledge of cloud computing, you can create your room, you can put your items inside, you can put your lighting, you can put your whole scenography. We can also digitize cities or buildings. We have the whole city of Marseille that was modelized by the company. You have the entire city in front of you, and you can thus see how the city lives, the vital signs of the city. So we really make quality a priority. The idea is to make this available for researchers and visitors. Thank you very much. Maybe a first question, and then we'll see if there are questions in the public. So, how do visitors make use of this technology? How does it integrate the pathway of visitors? As the Quai Branly Museum, we provide helmets for the ethnology weekend, for instance. We suggest visitors to put on the helmet and to go around items that are part of the collection, and so they can have access to it virtually, both on the with the outside and the inside of items. As for mediation, we also took part in the exhibition in Draguignan, Mommy, The Pathways to Eternity. It will be presented in 2 years now. And there was a specific room that was dedicated to these mummies that people could carry out an autopsy of these mummies with the helmets. There was an open room so people could just come in and they could see the inside of the items and go all around it. Again, it's a collective experience. There's not only one helmet, we have 5 or 6 people putting them on at once and they can share their observations.
C'était mignon.
Are there questions in the room?
No.
We were talking about budgets. You were saying that sometimes there are low budgets for museums. The Draguignan Museum, for instance, it's usually 25,000 euros because otherwise it's a market. So if you require 100,000 euros of development, it's going to take years. So you can produce the video that you showed earlier. It's accessible online and in stereo and 4K. So if you have a helmet, you can see it. It costs 25,000 euros, and honestly, it took me 2 hours to make it because we have a manufacturing process which is so fast that it reduces the production costs. So we could validate the settings, all of the plans. We generated the video. We delivered it for 25,000 euros. There's no competitor that can do this today. We are precise. We see the entire work of art. It's so precise that for fingerprint on the chocolate pot that you seen earlier, we can even carry out an autopsy on it, so you can see the level of precision of this digitization. We come from AAA video games. We know that our market is more video games, but we're also we're FDA approved. We're in the medical sector as only the only company that can provide helmets in operating theaters. If you see this in the movies, it's not FDA approved. It's just for the show. You're also in the fashion business and the architecture business. Culture is a field that doesn't have a lot of money, but it's something that we're interested in because it conveys values. And if one day you want to have your own collection, thanks to the museum that will have digitized the items, you will be able to assemble your own collection yourself at home. And you know that a collection is a reflection of your soul. Once you will have this collection, you go to that of your friends, you will feel like you were in their head. It's what happened to me recently. I have a friend, he's an artist, and rather than scrolling on Facebook or on Insta, I look at all of their pictures, where you will never remember half of the things that you've seen. The fact that you see the information in a space, you enter their universe, you enter their mind, and you will see when you carry out this experience yourself. If you are in the collection of one of your friends, you will feel like you're in their heads, in their minds. And it's also a discovery. If an item is well digitized, you really feel an emotion. I have a friend who told me I fell in love with a work of art from Matisse, and I was in love with them. It's go with your a digital world, and it's just a work of art. But if you have all of the details, here you have a Van Gogh, and this is the level of detail that you have on the painting. If you can look at it, if you see it 7 meters per 3 meters, if you look at all the details, but the helmet is not the same thing at all. You can see at which speed Van Gogh was painting his works of art, and we need quality. Otherwise, there's no point. So these digitized models, can they be replicated can they be accessed on a website or with different means? So it's cloud computing. So this means that we give a flow so that you can have access to the data. It's not, you cannot copy it, which is reassuring for museums and for medical users as well. So it's always a flow that is sent to a modality. So it can be a helmet, a smartphone, a tablet, a computer. And the beauty of it is that the experience is the same for everyone, regardless of the level of complexity or the price of your computer. It's, if you can have access to YouTube, you can have access to the readers. On one is for education or one is for medical uses. You want to have interoperability. You want to make sure that everyone has the same image for diagnosis or for students to learn. Because otherwise, if people don't have a very expensive computer and can't have access to it, there's no point. So in the fashion schools that we work with, in the video games that we work with, all of the students can have access to the same image. It's a model that we also use when we provide classes at the School of the Louvre, at the High Social Studies School. If you only need to have access to the internet. Even with the 4G on your smartphone, it's enough. So it allows us to bring the items to the place where we provide training. So I do this in France, or I provide training in Barakou, in Benin, and we can also have access to the items. So this makes this gives a new lease of life to the items in the museum. You've all heard of metaverse. So creating metaverse with this technology, it only takes 20 minutes without any knowledge, 3D knowledge, or cloud computing knowledge. If you're interested, I can help you create your own metaverse. You'll see that is very easy. It's nothing like Unity or all of the technologies where you dates back to the 1990s that required cloud engineers, 3D engineers, people who are expensive. All of the museums that I work with in Pagania, they don't even have fiber optics. They don't have the internet. How can we deliver something? Well, it worked. They've had 35,000 visitors in 2 months. Well, Philippe's speech and the communication around it also contributed to this, but we didn't need a high level of technique. Thank you very much for this presentation.